The aircraft powers into the sky.
Cactus 1549, 700, climbing 5,000.
Flight 1549 is traveling at almost 250 miles per hour. It's been in the air for just a minute and a half.
I caught something out of the corner of my eye, and slightly to our right, but still ahead of us, was a line of birds. And they were very, very close, too close for us to maneuver around. Whoa! And that fast, we were just on top of them.
Clay Presley is one of 150 passengers on board Flight 1549.
You can just feel the power of the plane going forward. And then all of a sudden, there was this gigantic boom. It seemed like it stopped in midair, like you hit a brick wall.
Oh my God, the engine's on fire.
Then all of a sudden, somebody said, the left engine's on fire.
Uh-oh. Before we could even assess the situation.
We got one roll, both of them rolling back.
Both engines rolled back to idle.
Ignition start.
Sullenberger takes control of the struggling plane.
My aircraft.
Your aircraft.
Get the QRH. Loss of thrust in both engines.
The QRH, or Quick Reference Handbook, is a step-by-step guide to dealing with emergencies.
Mayday, mayday, mayday. This is Cactus 1549. Hit birds. We've lost thrust in both engines. We're turning back towards LaGuardia.
Okay, you need to return to LaGuardia. Turn left, heading 220.
220.
What I'm thinking is, we're just going to have to restart an engine.
Thrust levers. Confirm idle.
Following the handbook, First Officer Skiles executes an engine restart attempt.
Idle.
The procedure is to try to restart the engines, and I always had faith we could do that.
Airspeed optimum relay, 300 knots. We don't have that.
We don't.
Okay, Cactus 1549, if we can get it for you, you want to try and land on runway 13.
We're unable.
The conversations with Captain Sullenberger were very short and to the point, which was very appropriate for the emergency. He had his hands full flying the airplane, so my job is just to move on to the next option.
All right, Cactus 1549, it's going to be traffic for runway 31.
Unable.
Harton still wants the jet to return to LaGuardia Airport, but Flight 1549 is now just 1,400 feet above the ground.
Cactus 1549, runway 4 is available if you want to make left, traffic runway 4.
I'm not sure we can make any runway. What's to our right? Anything in New Jersey, Teterboro?
Okay, yeah, off to your right side is Teterboro Airport. You want to try to go to Teterboro?
Yes.
Teterboro is a small airport on the New Jersey side of the Hudson River, but it's several miles away, and without their engines, Flight 1549 is dropping fast.
I looked at it, and I stopped, and I was kind of concerned that he was actually going to try for it. I didn't think we could make it.
Captain Sullenberger needs to decide what to do. If the plane's engines don't restart, he won't make it to Teterboro.
Go ahead. Try number 1.
While the crew struggles to restart the engines on their stricken plane,
No relight.
Controller Patrick Harton is still trying to find them a runway.
Hey, Cactus 1549, you can land runway 1 at Teterboro.
Can't do it. We're going to be in the Hudson.
I'm sorry, say again, Cactus?
I could hear him, but my mind really didn't want to comprehend those words.
We're going to be in the Hudson.
That was a death sentence for him, and I didn't want to accept the fact that it was over and there were no more options left.
So you're sitting there very quietly. People are anxiously waiting for information, and they wanted reassurance that things were going to be okay. You could hear that microphone come on.
This is the captain.
Captain Sullenberger prepares the passengers for what's ahead.
We're hoping he was going to say, I've got this under control, we're going to be okay, we're going to make it, we're going to turn around and go back and land. That's what you were hoping to hear.
Brace for impact.
What does he mean, brace for impact? And then all of a sudden it registered. I think he's saying we're going to crash.
Okay. Let's go. Put the flaps out.
I thought to myself, great, the Hudson River was our best opportunity. It was really the only thing in sight where we could land this airplane.
Got flaps out. 250 feet in the air.
I started calling out airspeeds and altitudes
170 knots.
to give him a situational awareness of what was going on.
Got flaps 2. You want more?
No. Let's stay at 2.
Below 300 feet, Patrick Harden's radar can't see the plane. Flight 1549 disappears.
When the aircraft disappeared off my radar, I just assumed that there weren't going to be any survivors.
In the cabin, the passengers prepare for disaster.
Be ready at the doors!
The folks at the door says, we're ready. I was just scared to death.
Pull up.
We're going to brace.
Pull up. Terrain.
It looked like the airplane was going right for the bottom of the Hudson River. All we saw was water cascading over the windshield.
It was like a tornado. Pieces of the plane were being torn apart. Some people were thrown around pretty good.
Then the airplane popped up, and it was just sort of gently rocking in the waves.
We all just sat there. We were all in shock, and we were waiting for what's next.
U.S. Airways Flight 1549 was in the air for just 5 minutes and 8 seconds. Having made a remarkable landing, the passengers and crew now face a new danger. The ice-cold water of the Hudson is pouring into the cabin. The crew of Flight 1549 has just performed an extremely difficult aviation feat, but they still have more work to do. Captain Sullenberger heads for the cabin, while First Officer Skiles shuts down the plane.
I stayed behind and did the evacuation checklist, and so it was probably about 45 seconds before I actually went back myself in the cabin after we landed.
The $75 million plane is quickly filling with freezing water.
That water was cold. People said, get the doors open, get the doors open.
Passengers nearest the exits open the doors quickly, while Sullenberger and the cabin crew begin managing the evacuation.
And so I worked my way out onto the wing, just a few steps to start with.
Skiles heads back to help the crew in the cabin get the passengers out of the sinking plane.
Sully and I were getting seat cushions and life vests when we're passing them out.
Come forward! Is there anybody here?
We were very confident there was nobody left on the airplane, but what was going on the wings, we just had no idea.
Captain Sullenberger and First Officer Skiles are the last ones off the plane.
I just saw the big splash when the plane just bounced over the water.
A small commercial airline crashed into the water.
They've been in the water more than 10 minutes already.
Emergency services scramble to evacuate the passengers from the sinking plane. The rescue is broadcast live across the United States. The entire nation looks on as passengers and crew of Flight 1549 are brought to safety.
U.S. Airways pilot made an incredibly skillful emergency landing in the Hudson River.
Authorities compare a list of 155 rescued people with the manifest, and miraculously no one is missing. For investigators from the National Transportation Safety Board, or NTSB, it's an unusual situation. Normally, their main task is to uncover the cause of a crash. With Flight 1549, the cause seems obvious.
Birds.
The original Mayday call was clear.
Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. This is Cactus 1549. Hit birds.
I think everybody realized that a bird strike had occurred. What people didn't know was what kind of birds brought the aircraft down, whether it might have been a combination of a bird strike plus something else, whether the crew acted and flew the aircraft as they should have.
Tests confirm that Canadian geese ingested into Flight 1549 ripped apart the engine's compressors. Metal shards from these broken compressors were sucked deep into the cores of both engines, shutting them down.
We've lost thrust in both engines. We're turning back towards LaGuardia.
Despite the safe outcome of Captain Sullenberger's heroic landing, there's one question that nags investigators.
We're going to be in the Hudson.
Did Sullenberger really have to land the Airbus in the Hudson River?
This is the captain.
Or could he have made it to a runway?
Brace for impact.
Using a flight simulator, investigators studied Chesley Sullenberger and Jeffrey Skiles' actions in the moments after their plane collided with birds.
Ignition.
We wanted to know, did the pilots do the right thing? Was there enough energy to make it back to LaGuardia? When we took into consideration the decision-making process that Captain Sullenberger went through, we realized that it was not possible to make it back to the airport.
We're going to be in the Hudson.
Putting the plane in the Hudson was the right call. Sullenberger didn't have enough altitude to glide to either LaGuardia or Teterboro airports.
We had a very experienced flight crew with very good training.
The accident accelerates the development of avian radar, a technology that could help pilots evade flocks of birds. It's a tool that may have prevented the crisis over the Hudson. But it's the supreme piloting skills in the cockpit of Flight 1549 that saved lives in the end.
My aircraft.
All your training that you've done, it all just comes back to you when you need it.
With the safety board, we don't really deal in miracles very often, but this event had a lot of things that came together at the right time and the right place. And so a lot of us are thinking, well, maybe we do have a miracle here.
Captain Sullenberger and First Officer Skiles are celebrated as aviation heroes, but both pilots are quick to deflect any praise.
These gentlemen will look you in the eye and say, I'm not a hero. Well, yeah, they are, and yet they don't think of themselves that way. They never stopped flying the airplane. They didn't give up. That, to me, is heroism.